Yesterday I read the letter that Jeremiah gave the people, a letter filled with words from God promising the people that they wouldn't always be in a foreign land, that they wouldn't always be far from home. So they listened to God, and they planted gardens, and they built homes, and they started families, and they waited. They counted the years because they wanted to return home. God had promised them that one day they would return home. So even though they felt all alone in a faraway land, they knew that God was with them. God had not forgotten them. In fact, God had sent another prophet to remind the people that they wouldn't be far away forever. And that prophet's name was Daniel. Daniel was a super special guy. He was super smart, he was a super hard worker, and like Joseph way back in Egypt, he was super good at interpreting dreams. Basically, he was like the prophet version of like sugar and spice and everything nice. He was the perfect combination of all the things. His family had been taken from their home and found themselves living in Babylon. King Darius saw how special Daniel was and gave him a really important job with a really important title. Let's just say he had a lot of power, which made people really jealous of him. They wanted his job, they wanted his title, and they wanted his power. So they began to create a plan to get rid of Daniel. Here was their plan. Everyone knew that Daniel loved God and that he prayed every day. So they decided to get King Darius to make a new law that everyone in Babylon could only pray to him, could only pray to the king. No one could pray to anyone else, not even the one true God. We know, and so did Daniel, that we should only pray to God, but the king didn't know that. So when the men who were jealous of Daniel came to King Darius with this idea about this law, he loved it. He thought it would be amazing for everyone to pray to him and worship him. And the punishment for breaking the law? Being thrown into a lion's den. I don't know about you, but I've always kind of wanted a pet lion. Okay, really, I want a pet polar bear. But my logical brain knows that as much fun as it sounds to have like a pet lion or a polar bear, it would not end well. I would not survive having either of those as a pet. Being thrown into a lion's den was not a fun, exciting thing. That was a death sentence. These bad men had made this law to hurt Daniel. And as soon as King Darius signed the law, Daniel's life was in danger. Daniel knew what the law was, but he broke it. He did the right thing and continued to pray to God every single day. And that is exactly what those bad guys wanted to happen. As soon as they had evidence that Daniel prayed to God and not to the king, they brought him before King Darius and told the king what had happened. They demanded that Daniel be thrown into the lion's den. The king immediately regretted making the law, but he had no choice but to obey it. It was his law. So he had Daniel thrown into the lion's den. As Daniel was thrown in, King Darius whispered something that almost sounded like a prayer. He said, "Daniel, I hope your God rescues you." And God did just that. The next day, the king went to the lion's den to check on Daniel. He called out, "Daniel, are you there?" And to his surprise, Daniel responded. Daniel said, "You thought I was alone, but I was never alone. I was with the lions, but more importantly, God was here too. Even in the dark, even when I felt alone, even when I was afraid, God was here protecting me. God was rescuing me." King Darius had Daniel taken from the lion's den and a new law was passed. Now everyone would only pray to the one true God. Daniel was one of the many prophets God used who was far away from home. God actually used other prophets and other animals to prepare people for his return. And every day the people prayed, "God, we have sinned, so you drove us away. But even in Babylon, we will hope and we will pray, God, will you come back to stay?" This year, there have been many times when we felt so far away from each other. In Daniel's time, they didn't have the technology that we have. God's people were scattered all over, and it was hard for them to talk to each other. Today, when we feel far away from someone, it's so easy for us to pick up a phone or a tablet or a computer and call, FaceTime, or Zoom someone. Maybe there's someone in your life that you feel far away from, someone that you really miss. I encourage your family to call someone today and wish them a Merry Christmas. Call someone you haven't seen or talked to in a while and just let them know that you miss them. Let them know that they are loved. Remind them that they're not alone. We all need to remember that we're not alone. But just like Daniel wasn't alone in the lion's den, we are never alone. Emmanuel, God with us.